Okay, welcome back to Let's Get Real with Danny, the podcast where we ditch all of the rules and things that you're told of what healthy is, and we talk about what it actually looks like to take care of yourself. And today's episode, oh, it was so good. I talked with the incredible Shawn Prestie, a close friend and someone I am so excited to introduce to you. She's an intuitive hypnotherapist and coach who supports women who've been giving everything to everyone else and looking really successful on the outside, but seeing that when really dive in, they're disconnected and depleted on the inside. So we talked a lot about small steps that we can take to start to go from where we're at, where we're feeling stuck, and then working towards that goal, that desire that we have to change, and how we can actually start to make that change without it feeling too scary, and to be able to be in a safe space to do that. So I really wanted to share her full bio here because I think it paints such a powerful picture of the work that she does and the kind of energy that she brings to the table. So here it goes. Shawn Prestie is an intuitive hypnotherapist and coach who helps high-achieving, burnt-out women reconnect with their truest selves. She guides them to uncover the subconscious patterns that have kept them putting everyone else first so that they can remember who they are, what they love, and finally create a life that truly lights them up. With a background in holistic nutrition, yoga, and personal training, Shawn blends intuitive wisdom with deep subconscious work to support powerful and lasting transformation. And fun fact, she believes that healing can be deep and gentle with a splash of laughter, and she's never met a pendulum she didn't want to take home. So in today's episode, we dive further into that on how she can help you through those moments of, deep subconscious, and how she can help you be on the other side and, have these stressors or anxieties just lifted so that you can start to live your life day to day. So if you've ever felt like you've been stuck in patterns you can't seem to break, or you've kind of lost touch with who you are underneath all the expectations of what society has told you what you need to do, then this is a conversation you don't want to miss. Let's get into it. Okay, awesome. Hey, Shawn, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I know this is just going to be such a great conversation. And just some quick background of like how Shawn and I know each other. We actually met through a business coach, but it feels like we were just meant to meet because we just connected, and it was like there was nothing like inherently, we were like on Zoom calls together, and it was just like that person, like our energies are just so aligned. So
Mhm.
I think she's just someone I was meant to meet. So of course I had to have her on my podcast. And so
Yeah.
let's just jump in and like let's rewind a bit in terms of like where you started and like how you came to be here. So like what first drew you into, you started in like the holistic nutrition and yoga
hmm
space. So like tell me a little bit more like what drew you to that?
Yeah, well, I've always had one foot in the wellness world. Always. I was always into, I mean, I wasn't like the top athlete in my school or anything, but I always loved to play sports. I loved to be in dancing. I loved to be in all kinds of things like that. And then when I left school, I was always going to the gym and I was doing yoga. And then I became obsessed with yoga and I became a yoga teacher, all while working in the corporate world. And it was always like I had one leg in. I loved healthy eating. I loved anything to do with um, wellness, basically. And I was working through the corporate world because I thought that's what I had to do. So I had these serious, important, high stress, like shift working jobs that I thought I'm only successful if I have a job like that. I have to have a job where I am successful, I get paid good money, I can afford to buy things, I can go on vacations. Like I had this belief that that's what I had to do.
Yeah.
And anyways, so I always had my foot in that wellness world, and I became a yoga teacher, I became a personal trainer, and I was always doing that on the side. And then I thought, I need to quit my job because I was so exhausted. I was so burnt out. I hated working shift work. So I thought, well, I don't want to just quit because it just seems foolish. So I want to have, and I had this delusional belief that I would do the next thing and I would be wildly successful in the first moment that I announced that I was doing it, which is
Yeah.
totally not how it works. But anyways, I was living under that false delusion. So I joined a holistic nutrition program at the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition, and I became a holistic nutritionist. And I loved it because it sort of tied in. So I had this vision that I would be the successful nutritionist, teach a little yoga on the side, and that would be me. Well, I quit my job after I went on stress leave because I guess I should have said this before, but I was studying nutrition and then I graduated school and I was doing a little bit on the side. I had a handful of clients, but it was very, very, very on the side. It wasn't money that could sustain me in my mortgage and all that stuff. So I was doing that, but I loved it. I loved working with the people. I loved connecting with the people because it was so different than this soul-sucking job that I had that I didn't mind the work, but there was just, there's politics in the workspace and there's drama and all that, and I didn't like that. So, and then the night shifts were killing me too. So one day I woke up and I got ready for work. I drove into work. I don't remember the whole drive there. I don't remember getting in the shower. I don't remember fixing my lunch. I basically had this autopilot morning and I got to the office and I was taking the handover from the guy on night shift and he explained things to me and I was sort of coming to and then he's like, "Are you okay?" And I just burst into tears because I'm like, "I'm not okay, actually. I drove all the way here. I lived downtown Vancouver and I worked in Richmond. So it was a drive. Like it wasn't like I just lived, a few blocks away.
Right.
And it scared me. And my boss came over because he saw me crying and he's like, "What's going on?" And then I was like, this, I need to leave. So I, made my way to my doctor eventually that day. And she's like, "You need a break." So I went on stress leave. And while I was on stress leave, I felt like such a loser and I felt like, "Oh, who can't handle this?" The stigma around mental health. And my doctor said, "If you broke your leg, I'd put a cast on it and make you stay off of it. This is your brain, this is your mental health. We can't put a cast on it. And the way to rest it is to not be at work." And she gave me a prescription to do fun things, get lots of sleep, and eat lots of healthy food. So I said, "Okay, well, that's what I'll do." And I took it very seriously. And I did lots of fun things. And it was amazing how different I felt after a few months. So I quit doing that. And I thought, I'm just going to dive into this holistic nutrition. I'm certified, I can do this. So I dove in and I didn't do terribly. I had a handful of clients. I definitely wasn't like, making bank or anything, but I had a few clients here and there, and I was really struggling with the work because I would sit and talk with them and we would get to the bottom of what they wanted. But I was really struggling with the fact that I would put this beautiful plan together. And holistic nutrition, for anyone who doesn't know, it's the study of the whole body and your whole life. And that's where the nutrition isn't just from the food you eat, it's also from your mindset. It's also from the things you do in your life, your environment, your relationships, your work. Like it's your whole, everything that has to do with you. It's about holistically bringing that in so that it helps you, it creates the life that you want through everything about you. And because some things work, some things don't, right? We all know that.
Yeah.
And it's paying attention to what isn't working and make some shifts. And then there's also it tends to be a little heavier on the nutrition because food is a huge important part of our lives. And so what I was finding was I would build these beautiful programs for people and they would be amazing, but they wouldn't do them. And I was like, "Okay, well, what's wrong with it? What don't you like about it? Where are you finding there's a struggle?" "Well, I don't know. I just can't eat breakfast in the morning." "Okay." So then we would, dig a little into that. We would, shift everything around. So it was what they wanted, or so they would say. And then next check-in, they'd be like, "Yeah, I haven't been doing it." And I'm thinking like, "Oh, is there something wrong with me? Is there what's going on here?" And it was all coming down to they had lots of blocks and the mental space I would just found it so intriguing. It's like you have someone that you've paid a lot of money to build this for you that can help you through your whatever it is your goals are, and you're not doing it. Like,
Yeah.
oh man, I would love for someone to just tell me what to do, right?
Yeah, just like lay it out for me. Let's yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
But that's what we were coming up against. And I started to get frustrated. I went through this whole thing where I felt like it was my fault because they're not succeeding. But then I was like, no, this is their journey. It's it's their experience. So let's get to the bottom of and go under like what is it that is causing them to not take their supplements that I recommended that I know will support them because I've worked with other people and it's supported da 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 da, like whatever the
Mhm.
not do is. And we were uncovering all of this stuff that was definitely not about food. And I was like, you know what? It's not the food, it's the mind. It's the people that are complex. It's not the food at all. The
Right.
food is the simple part. Eat this and this will happen. Very simple,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But we get in our heads and, da da da. Anyways,
Mhm.
so while I was on my stress leave before I actually quit my job, I something I had been tuning into is intuition. And I had been exploring because my doctor had said to me, she's like, I don't think you actually have depression and anxiety. I think this is a situation that you're in that is not fulfilling your soul. It's not fulfilling your purpose. And I knew my doctor. She doesn't practice anymore, but I knew her for years and years before this. And she said to me, you are a person who likes this world and you're in this world. And so let's get you more into this world and see how that helps you feel. So I was dabbling in intuition. I was reading all the books. I was taking classes. I was going to workshops that were all about connecting with your intuitive senses, connecting with your spirit guides, with, you know, um, all kinds of crystals and just things that sort of bring in that kind of divine sense, the universe, right, into your world. And I noticed that my intuition started to wake up and I started to really connect with it. And I was realizing things that were a hard no for me and things that were a hell yes. And I was like, okay, this is really cool. And I was learning it. And then I took a little weekend program that was to teach you how to be a mind, body, spirit coach. And I thought I need more of this. So I took another program that was an intuitive coach training, which was just mind-blowingly amazing because I mean, you've probably had experiences in your life where something intuitive happens and then it's validated later and you're like, "Oh, I knew that." Right?
Yeah.
Like those
Sure.
kinds of things happen. So
Yeah.
that was happening on the regular for me. I'm like, I need to do this. And how cool would this be to put it together with my nutrition? And so I started doing that. I was doing intuitive nutrition and I was getting to the bottom of a lot of the issues that people were finding themselves, being stuck with and
Mhm.
why they weren't able to follow the plan and do this and do that and whatever. But we get to this one point where we would we would say, okay, well, we understand now that there's a part of you that feels like it's not worthy to have a healthy body. There's a part of you that feels like it's not okay to lose weight because it'll be seen as, you know, superficial or shallow or whatever.
Totally.
Um, but how do we get through that? Because that's not your truth.
Yeah.
And so in the mind body spirit coaching and in the intuitive coaching there's all these different exercises that you can do just like in any coaching program. So but it felt to me like we were just throwing spaghetti at the wall,
Yeah.
right? Which one's going to stick, which one's going to work? And they'd come back and they'd be like, well, it made sense and I kind of liked it but it didn't last.
Mhm.
And so I was really kind of stumped. And then one day a friend of mine was like, because she took the intuitive coaching program that I took a little bit before me. She goes, I found that missing piece that we've been talking about. And I'm like, what is it? She says, it's hypnotherapy. And I
Yeah.
was like, what? Tell me more.
Yeah.
Because all I had ever heard of hypnotherapy is like stage hypnosis and like all the weird things you see on TV that they say is hypnosis, right? Which is not
Right.
true. We can get into that later if you want. But
Yeah.
and so I was like, interesting, tell me more. And so she said, well, I'm actually taking a training right now and I need some practice sessions. So let me do some sessions on you. I'm like, okay. So she did. And I came to the sessions with a couple of things that were very, very bothersome in my life,
Mhm.
gone, like just gone. And these things weren't layered things,
Mhm.
but they were something that could be uh, because sometimes things are very layered and sometimes they're just like a little topic that's floating over here and it can be resolved in one session.
Yeah.
And that one specific thing that I had worked on was gone. I didn't have the stress that it was causing me afterwards. And I thought that's it. So I enrolled in the next cohort. And then ever since then, I just feel like intuition, coaching, and hypnotherapy just have created this beautiful blend of healing that helps people move past the mindset. I dropped the holistic nutrition. I was like, no, this is way more interesting. And
Yeah.
so I still infuse it into my life. And every once in a while, I do find myself giving recommendations to people that are, um, very much, very loosely like, well, look into it before you decide to do this. Because,
Right.
um, we always want people to be on board with things. But yeah, so that's how I got into it. And now I'm just working with people one to one, building some group stuff to really support that transition so that you understand when you get to that resistance where you're like, why can't I just fill in the blank? I know that I need to, I know that I have to, but for some reason I just don't do it. Or for some reason, anytime I do it, I get scared and I just walk away from it. Or whatever the case may be,
Yeah.
we can change that and
Yeah.
understand where that comes from.
Yeah, that's so common too, right? Is like that, like knowing, like being very aware of like the situation, but not knowing how to change it or make changes. It's like you kind of get stuck in a limbo zone of like, can this actually change? And like, how do you help people see that like that change is possible? Like, what's that like first step that you take them through to be like, hey, like what you desire and like what's that one little thing that you're struggling with can be lifted and
Mhm.
let go of. Like, how do you initiate that?
So, first thing, the person has to want it.
Mm.
Because if you don't actually want the change, it will never happen. Hypnotherapy is not magic. It's not, sometimes it feels like magic, but it's not.
Yeah.
You have to have a desire. And we usually say, and I mean, I know scales can be subjective, but we usually say you need at least a 7 out of 10 to want it, like bad enough to make the change. And so that's always something I ask is, and how bad on a scale of 1 to 10 do you want this? Usually I get like, oh, like 100. So I know that the person really wants it. But if you're like, well, no, my partner wanted me to come in here because they find it really annoying. It's like, okay, well, if you don't want it to change, then it's not going to change no
Yeah.
matter what. So you have to recognize that. So the biggest thing is the desire to change has to be great. They have to be open because it's a really interesting process, and then we just get specific. We focus more on I one thing that I love about hypnotherapy is you don't need to focus on the actual story of what's going on, of why we just focus on how does it make you feel in the way that you don't like?
Right.
Why do you want to change this? And what do you want instead? And so those are kind of the three pieces that we go into. So what is it that you want to achieve? Well, I let me think of something. Well, let's just say weight loss because that's a big one these days. And I want to lose weight. Well, why?
Yeah.
Well, because, my knees are bothering me and I don't fit into any of the clothes that I used to wear and I just feel bad in my body. Like for me, when I gained some weight before, I had to hold my breath when I'd bend over to put my shoes on and it just didn't feel good. You know what I mean? So we would, okay, well those are good reasons. And how does that make you feel when you think of this situation where you're at right now? Well, I feel bad about myself because, I used to be really athletic and I just stopped paying attention and I stopped doing the things I love to do. And it makes me feel guilty because I should be taking care of myself, and that's your truth.
Yeah.
And people, will say, well, don't feel guilty because, life gets, but that's true too. But also this is your feeling. This is how you feel. And so that's what we're going to work on. And
Hmm.
then what do you want instead? Well, I want to be able to, put my shoes on without having to hold my breath. I want
Yeah.
to be able to walk up the stairs without being huffing and puffing. And okay, then that's great. And then we can dive into the blocks around the emotional cause of weight loss.
Yeah. And I think for women too, there's like almost such a like it's such a heavy burden that
Yeah.
like to like you said before, like it's okay to want weight loss. And it's also like that it's like a this battle of like back and
Mhm.
forth of like what's the right way to go about things and trying to for so long trying to just please others and
Mhm.
like yeah, and if you have a partner that says, oh, you should try and lose weight, like that's not fulfilling for you to work on that thing that yeah, maybe you feel is something you want to work on, but if you're not quite there, then you can't truly tap into your why. If your why is that someone else wants you to do it,
Mhm.
it's very shallow rooted, right? Like there's almost
Yeah.
no roots.
Yeah.
So yeah, tapping into that root of like, okay, like what's your desire to change? And especially when your life has been so rooted in others and
Hmm.
like women, especially like our goal, like whether you're a mom, your sister, your friend, like you're always kind of told, like, look out for others, like you're supposed to
Hmm.
take care of others. And so often we don't take care of ourselves the way that we want to.
Yeah.
And we get lost and then we don't know where to grasp onto.
Hmm.
Like, so having someone to be able to help you organize that, or how would you even like phrase it? Like what would you say you're helping them do? Is it like organizing things, or is it kind of like helping them process it? Like what is that
It's
process?
it's helping them process. So I do a lot of parts work, and I'm not sure if you're or anybody who's going to be listening to this is familiar with parts work, but the idea with parts work is, and it's done across many different type of therapy modalities. And so the hypnotherapy one I'll speak to because there are other pieces of this in counseling and other types of therapies, but the hypnotherapy is the one that I practice. It basically the idea is, and we say it in our everyday language, so it can come very naturally, and it makes it really great to um, work with because I also feel like it helps you know yourself better. It helps you understand the bottom of things. Like when you say, "Oh, let's get to the bottom of it," it helps you understand that bottom of why you are the way you are in a certain situation. So, with weight loss, we could talk to the part of you that won't let you lose weight, that
Mhm.
part of you that's holding on to something. Because when we're young, we tend to, well, our subconscious mind, we have like our subconscious and our conscious mind. And our conscious mind is about 5% of our consciousness. And the subconscious is the rest. It's like I always say, I heard this somewhere, I don't even remember where I heard it. It's like a background app. It's always running,
Right.
always. And its goal is to keep you alive and protect you.
Mhm.
And so it will be watching. And when we're born, even before we're born, when we're in the womb, even up until around 7 years old, our subconscious is wide open and absorbing everything. We're in that theta brainwave state, which is where hypnosis happens, and which I can share a brainwave image if you want, just to show you the brainwaves. And basically, when you're in that theta state, your subconscious is open and you're absorbing everything. And so when you're a child, all you want to do is be a part of your family, be loved, be appreciated, be connected to your people. And so you will absorb the world through a child lens. You're not, some expert in this because you're 5,
Yeah.
right? So you see your parent leaving all the time because they have to work 2 jobs so that they can pay the rent, and you're just being left with a child or with a babysitter all the time.
Mhm.
All you see as the 5-year-old is my mommy always leaves me, or
Mhm.
whatever the situation was. You don't understand that they're leaving to pay the rent so that you can have clothes and food and a roof over your head and maybe play soccer or whatever, you know?
Right.
So you just see the one I love the most in the world leaves. And
Mhm.
so I'm just making this up. You may grow up thinking that the one I love the most is going to leave me. And so you may start self-sabotaging relationships to protect yourself. Right? Does that make sense?
Oh man, that hit so hard for me. I'm like, whoa, you see me. You like,
Yeah.
like these are real things that people are
Hmm.
dealing with, that yeah, they don't
Yeah.
even, they don't even have
Yeah.
this perspective. They don't even
No.
know why
No.
they might react to certain things
Yeah.
or act certain ways. So wow.
And so when we're just getting back to your question, so
Yeah.
when we go into that, I often will listen to the way they speak about themselves. And sometimes they even say it themselves. Because how many times have you been like, oh, a part of me knows I need to go to the grocery store, but a part of me just wants to watch TV and lay here.
Yeah.
Or like a part of me wants to go out, but a part of me wants to go to bed early and just watch Netflix in my bed,
Yeah.
right? Like, so we already use that language, a part of me. And so I will often just listen to what they say, and they often will just tell me what that part is.
Mhm.
And if they don't, because sometimes they don't, if I'd say 50-50, they do, they don't, I will ask them. So it sounds like a part of you, insert whatever they've come to talk to me about. And they'll say, yeah. And I usually gauge their response. And if it's like, yeah, then I'll keep going because I know it didn't quite hit the spot. And then once we find that spot, then that's where we go. And can I share my screen a little bit with you just to show you this the will it let me?
Allow. That should be good now.
Yeah, so this is the brain waves, and the brain waves are just the rate at what your brain is moving. And so we have this beta, the green one here, and
Right.
you can see, and for those listening, it's a the brain waves, and they're very zigzaggy, they're very close together, they're rapidly moving. And beta is where we are constantly, mostly in the day. We're very awake, we're conscious, we're paying attention, we're analyzing things, we're using our conscious mind to move through the world. And then as we slow it down, we move through alpha. And so the brain waves, they kind of relax a little. They're not as ziggy zaggy, they're a little bit more spaced apart. And then as we relax even more, we move into theta. And that is where you can see they're very rolly, and they're not as zigzag, and they're spaced apart, and our brain is just slowed right down. And that's very where the hypnotic experience can happen. That's why it's really important when you're going to sleep at night, because if they relaxes even more, this is sleep. Delta's the sleeping.
Okay.
And so in a session, we go right to the point where you're almost asleep,
Yeah.
and we work here. And then when we're done, we then speed up the brain and you come back out. And you do this twice a day, unless you nap often. You go to sleep. When you're laying there going to sleep, you just slow your own brain down. And then when you wake up, you speed it back up. That's why it's really important when you first wake up or right before you go to bed, you consume positive, soft things. You don't jump on TikTok and watch the news or whatever before, right as soon as you wake up, because you're in this very suggestible state. And
Mm,
that is where all this happens. That's where we're able to access the reasons why things are the way they are, why we're able to access the parts of you, and that comes to the that helps us get understand the why this is happening. Did I
yeah.
explain that okay?
Oh, that's so like it just kind of like I had a light bulb moment of like, yeah,
Oh,
like the way we start and end our day, like it's kind of always talked about like how you start your day, like sets you up for the day, but like there's actual science behind it.
mm,
Like, you know,
yeah.
if you're in that suggestive or like where your brain is like the most like responsive to the things that
Hmm.
you're telling it,
Yeah.
of course that's going to impact your day to day and then your week to week, your month, your life, right? Like
Exactly.
so your environment truly does. And like you said, from the womb till
Hmm.
adulthood. And so like how much like the I guess what excites me is the fact that you can just because the things that you've experienced as a child have formed you to who you are doesn't mean that you're not able to kind of work in that area to make those changes to where
Hmm.
you're at now. Like, you know, the opportunity is there to say
Hmm.
like at these times of days it's more helpful for me, or I can tap into those times
Hmm.
where my brain is in a state of like calm and quiet and
Yeah.
it's open to receiving, that there can be change made. It's not like this like black and white thing of like this is
Yeah.
who you are now. So
Totally.
it's like
They
hopeful, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they used to think, when I say they, I mean like the science people.
Okay.
They
Yeah.
they used to think that when you grew up, like you were born, you were raised, you grew up, and it was like your brain was concrete. That was it. That's how you are.
Yeah.
But in, the last several years, they've discovered that no, it's not that way. That there is neuroplasticity. Your brain can rewire. And I don't know if you've heard that expression, neurons that fire together wire together.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so with anything, with any new changes, it's always going to be, if it's outside of the realm of what you normally do, it's going to be messy, it's going to be clunky, it's going to be tricky, it's going to be hard, it's going to feel like effort until you do it enough times that your neurons say, "Oh, this is what we're doing." You
Yeah.
know, it's like you see people practicing, like when they're learning to do a movement in dance, like they kind of go through it slow so that their body knows where it's supposed to be and what space and time and the movement and the muscles that contract and everything. And then they're able to then put it together with the rhythm of the music, right? And their body knows it. And I'm sure there's even like situations with like any sport really, where when they're watching it, even like I know my husband will if he watches like MMA or he used to be a wrestler, and he's like sitting on the couch like this, like doing the movements with the people, and I'm just like I have to sit a little bit away from him or he'll clock me in the side of the head, not on purpose, but
Just
because he's
reaction. Yeah.
yeah, because he's like wrestling with them, and it's like his muscle memory is activated, and so it's very powerful. And so when you're moving through your life, if you can have this awareness that you can change and you actually want to,
Mm.
using the principles of Hebb's law, which is that idea that your neurons that fire together wire together, you can create new habits for yourself. And those habits can be anything, really.
Yeah.
Remembering to get your keys in your wallet before you leave the house can be something you can remember to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just like to me, that's exciting because it's like, yeah, we're kind of told old dogs can't learn new tricks. And
Hmm.
it's like so not true, right? Like it's
Hmm.
like, yeah, settling into something that you think that that's your reality for the rest of your life. And
Yeah.
yeah, if that's what you truly believe, then that's how it's going to be. Like
Yeah.
how powerful our minds are to say like
Oh,
we can not manipulate, but we can guide it to be the way we want it to be. Like
yeah.
the way we feel, the way we act day to day, like the patterns that we follow, right? Like it's
Hmm.
like, yeah, that's like I'm just like I'm like, oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
how come more people aren't diving into this, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
so, like I guess this is relatively new, like you said, like the hypnotherapy and like when you think of like hypnotist, you think of like this guy going like cluck like a chicken or whatever, right? Like it's like
Totally.
so far from it, right?
Or the guy robbed the bank because he was hypnotized on the movie. Like, no, because
Yeah.
and that's the thing too, is that people people that I've worked with have told me that the work we did together, and I'll take part of the credit for just providing the service, but they did all the work on the inside. It had nothing to do with me. I just guided them through the process. But the process of hypnotherapy changed their lives. I was talking to a client the other day, and he's like, "It's so weird. I used to have all this anxiety about my impending to-do list. It was like doom. And I'd be out walking my dog, relaxing, and I would be thinking about the task list that I had to do, and it would be causing me to be stressed out on my nice, relaxing walk at the beach." And he said to me the other day, he's like, "I had a lot to do, but that stress, that anxiety, it's just gone because we were able to get underneath of it and understand why it was there in the first place and heal that."
Mm,
And so the healing, it's almost like a soft, gentle absence of that once emotion that you had that was really bothering you, whether it was guilt, shame, stress, anxiety, depression, whatever it was. So it's really interesting that we can shift as long as we have that desire and we want the change.
yeah. And like, and when we tap into those things, like, and shift those things, it then has like this trickle effect. So like how has you have you seen like when you focus on one thing for someone, it like trickles into the rest of
Mhm.
their life? Like how is that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because when I think about it, it's an absence. And it's funny when I explain it to people, they're kind of like, "Oh, okay." But then when they experience, they're like, "It's just gone." Like that problem, it's just not there anymore. I don't feel that way anymore. And um, it does trickle into other areas because I don't think one specific situation is one specific trigger. Like it's not isolated. I think that other aspects of different situations in your life can also trigger situations for you and trigger these emotional responses and reactions from you. And yeah, it's really, really interesting to see when people have that realization for themselves. And just going back to what we were saying earlier, is that I wish hypnotherapy was not just the crazy things they make you do in the movies and they blame it on being hypnotized, because it's not that.
Yeah.
Or clucking like a chicken or barking like a dog or whatever this person on the stage has told you to do. That those are very specific things. And I'm not trained in that kind of training, for one, but I know I've heard people talk about it. And I believe there's some kind of a suggestibility test that the hypnotist will do to the crowd so they're actually selecting you based on how you respond. It's to my understanding. Don't quote me on that. And so if you're up there, humping the chair or whatever they've made you do, it's because you are choosing to do it. Human beings have free will. And so at any moment in any of my sessions, you can open your eyes. You can get up. You can say, "This is too much for me." You can shut the Zoom off if we're on computer. And also sometimes the internet has crashed. I lost my power once and we had just started, so we hadn't got as maybe that's a bad example because we hadn't got really into it. But there are times where the internet crashes and they don't hear me talking for a moment, or the music stops because sometimes I'll play music for them. And then they open their eyes and they're like, oh, we lost connection, and they connect back into Zoom. So it's not like you're going to be put in this trance and you're stuck there till I take you out. It's not like that at all. It's you have free will. If I all of a sudden said something really weird to you, you could get up and just be like, no, this is stupid. I'm not doing this. Or, you know, you just open your heart and your mind and you just see what happens. And a lot of the language that I use is stuff that you told me in the intake. I
Right.
use your words because it's about you. It's not about me. It's about what you want, how you want the change. So it's very, I wish more people knew about it. I wish less people were scared of it because it's not scary at all. It's actually uh, it's very gentle and it's very, when people don't really know what to expect, they wake up and they say, that's not what I thought it was going to be at all.
Mhm.
I shouldn't say they wake up because they're not sleeping, but they open their eyes and come back to consciousness again.
Right.
And yeah.
Yeah, and I think some of the maybe the fear is because of the unknown, right? And like because they think like, oh, that's just like someone might think that their perception is of one way of thinking and they haven't
Hmm.
opened it to be a
Hmm.
different way yet. Like they're just like when you don't know something, it's scary, right? When you're like you don't know until you jump, essentially.
Yeah.
Those moments
Yeah.
where you're like, okay, like I'm gonna go do this thing, like people who bungee jump, like I probably would never do that. But like when you do something scary, like starting your own business or taking that jump to say like I'm going to start taking care of myself and like actually start focusing on what fulfills me, like
Hmm.
that's scary because you're separating yourself from the norm of what society has said. Like just go grind through a 9 to 5
Hmm.
corporate job and just like be okay with feeling miserable day to day. Like hi, I've been there myself too, and like crying, being like, what am I doing here?
Hmm.
Realizing like that's not like if that's not fulfilling for you, you can make change. And I
Hmm.
think the fear of stepping out of that, for some reason, the norm is like to just deal with it. It's like to open those doors and be like, maybe that's not what the norm should be.
Hmm.
Right? Maybe the norm should be like everyone feeling fulfilled or like
Yeah.
figure, right?
I vote for that.
Yeah, right. Like, let's make some positive change here, right?
Yeah.
But like, and that's what I love about you and how you approach helping people. It's like you're helping people see exactly what they desire and helping them get there. Like, you're not just,
Hmm.
let's just like talk about it. You're like, you're actually making change with people and
Hmm.
tapping into those tough to reach areas on our own and saying, hey, like, let's work on this together. Let's be gentle with it. Let's be understanding of it. And let's walk
Hmm.
through this because doing that alone is very scary. But having someone there to guide you is like, and especially a wonderful person like you, it's like it's so
Hmm.
much, it makes the scary thing a little less scary. It's like shining the flashlight, right?
Exactly.
Hey, like here's the direction, and then the light gets brighter and brighter, and then you can
Yeah.
see like, oh, this is real, this is where I can
Yeah.
exist, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
because living in the dark is to me scarier.
Yeah,
Like
exactly. And I often say that to people. It's funny that you bring up the holding the flashlight in the dark because I often give them the analogy of when we work together over the course of 8 weeks, it is I stand with you like arm in arm with the flashlight going, okay, let's go over this way. And I show them. And then eventually, after a couple of sessions, they are then, pulling me holding the flashlight. I'm still there with them,
yeah,
but we're there together. And then eventually I sort of like let go of them and then they're walking on their own with the flashlight themselves. And that's kind of the like I like to say I'll get it I we get in there and we dig in the mud together with our shovels. We dig up all the stuff and we organize it, we heal it, we push it where it needs to be in order for you to feel resolved in whatever the topic that you've come in to see me for.
yeah,
And that's really what it feels like is we've got the tools, we've got the way, I just need to show you so that you can believe in yourself. Because, like you said, being who you want to be, speaking up for what you believe is right for you, for your family, for your friends, for marginalized communities, whatever that is that you feel you need to speak to, you should be able to do that. You should be able to live the life that you want to live, not under the thumb of what society thinks or what the culture thinks or what the family thinks, because you're you. And sometimes you could even have a really wonderful upbringing where your family encouraged you to do whatever you want in your life as long as you're happy. But you, like, this is me, so let's just be transparent. My mom always said to me, do whatever you want, just make sure it's a safe job. She's like, I don't want you working like the night shift at a gas station in the city because that was her worst nightmare, that would happen and I would get robbed. And, no disrespect to anybody who does that. She was just, we lived in a small town and she thought maybe that's what would happen to me if I lived there. And but she was always, just do whatever it is that you want to do in your life.
Mhm.
But I perceived from the world that in order to be successful, in order to make it, I had to have an important corporate job that was high paying, allowed me to get, like, benefits, vacation. I could buy my own place. I could have a car, go on vacation twice a year. And I did that. And I was miserable.
Mhm.
I was so I hated my life. There was a big chunk of time where I didn't even want to be alive. I'd lay in bed and going, okay, if I just don't wake up tomorrow, that would be good, thanks. How sad is that? Right? And so I think it's so important for people to just say, excuse my language, but just fuck it all.
Mhm.
And I'm going to do what I want to do. And that doesn't mean you have to just burn your life down.
Yeah.
That's just making shifts within you so that you show up on your terms, right? Yes, you have kids, you have obligations. Nobody's saying you need to just abandon them, not at all. But maybe there's a way that we can soften the mom guilt. We can soften I'm not a mom, so I can't really say, but whatever other emotions that moms often feel, we can just soften them to
Mhm.
help you understand why you feel them. Because logically, you know that if you say no to your kid, you can't have a chocolate bar for dinner because I'm making you spaghetti or whatever. Like, logically, you know that. But if you feel guilty about something like that, then there's some work that you can do inside so that that guilt just will go away. And you
Mhm.
don't have to you can maybe feel guilty for other things that the guilt should be there for. Like if you've gone away for a week and then you come home and you have to go away again. Like, sure, feel guilty about that because you miss your kids, you love them, but it's not guilt because you've put yourself aside and you're ignoring you. Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah. It's like, there's a time and place for guilt, right? Like we're not like saying like feel guilty for everything and also don't feel
Mhm.
guilty for anything, right? Like these emotions serve a purpose, but like there's reason if you're getting so hung up on the things that you really don't need to put energy into that feeling and then you can repurpose it, right? And like bring
Yeah.
you a different energy and like especially if it's not helping you get to where you want to be in terms of how you feel,
Mhm.
right? So like, yeah, like you hit the nail on the head, like that with, just for me, I was the same way. We have the same backstory of like corporate world, miserable, just like, what am I doing? Like high paying job, my family, like I just remember my mom saying, like, you have to go to university. Like I wanted to
Mhm.
go into nutrition and like kinesiology. She's like, you're not gonna make much money being a gym teacher. And I'm like, that's not what I want to do. Like I want to do like things and
Yeah.
but you got to go get your science degree so that you can go get a high paying job so that you can afford all the things and live that life that
Mhm.
she didn't live and like, a helpful push for sure, but it wasn't truly fulfilling. And so it's like, okay, like and as you grow and as you see different things and go through different experiences,
Mhm.
you're like seeing where your path is brighter or for you, not necessarily someone else shining the flashlight for you.
Exactly.
Like, okay,
Yeah.
and tapping into that is so key for
Yeah.
the greater purpose of
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
And I have had clients who have come to me and said, I'm just unhappy in my life. And it's like, okay, well, I just want to feel happy.
Mm.
And through our work together, I don't ever tell anybody to like leave their partners, to quit their jobs, to do like that's all you. I
Hmm.
just help you work on what's on the inside, and those shifts that you make in the outer world in your life, they'll happen as they're supposed to for you and what you decide to do.
Yeah.
And I had a client once who actually stopped working with me. And she said to me on our last session together, she said, "I'm actually not going to come anymore." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Like, it's your choice. You can do whatever you want." And she said, "Because I can see where this work is going and it's very powerful. And I know that if I keep going, I'm going to have to leave my husband, and I'm not prepared to do that right now."
Whoa.
I was like, "Oh, didn't see that one coming, but okay." Well, you know where to find me if, you ever want to come back. And um, yeah, so I've had people come and quit their jobs.
Hmm.
And they don't quit their jobs like just one session and they're like, "That's it, I'm done," and they quit. And it's like, but there's the inner tweaking that happens that gets them to the point where they're like, "You know what? Yes, this job pays me a lot of money. Yes, this job was what I wanted when I was younger, but I'm not really there anymore. And I want to do this instead." But I've also had people who have a lot of stress around the way their job is,
Hmm.
and they don't quit their job, but they're able to sort themselves out inside so that those things don't bother them anymore. And they just show up, they do their work, and they leave. And that's it. It's just the means to their end.
Yeah. And like the whole idea being like there's no right or wrong answer
No.
to what you choose to do. It's like it's all in what feels right for you. And like I think that's something that people can take away from this is like
Hmm.
if you want change, it's possible to do it. You just have to
Hmm.
be ready for it and ready for the discomfort and the reconfiguring of the wires being a little
Yeah.
bit of a messy process. But if you don't ever go through that process, you're never going to see the beautiful side of it where you see it all put together,
Hmm.
wires get a little neater and like you can
Yeah.
actually see the
Yeah.
abundance that you can have at the end of the day. It's like okay, like, yeah, most things, like they always say, like hard things take or good things take work, right? But
Yeah.
the work is worth it when it's for you and to help you feel like you're aligned in the life that you want. So like, like, and someone's probably listening to this and thinking like, okay, that all sounds amazing and wonderful, but like, where do I start? So like, what would you?
Yeah. Well, first, I would say make sure that it's something you actually want.
Mhm.
Because two things I hate in the world are wasting time and wasting money. And for me and for you, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want you to waste your money if you don't actually want this change. And
Mhm.
so making sure that you actually want change, and you don't even necessarily need to know what it is that you want, because oftentimes, like you alluded to it earlier, sometimes we're so stuck in the habit of what's easy for us, which is, just to umbrella it all, just be in our own misery, like what we don't like in our life. We don't know what it would look like or feel like to be beyond that, right? We don't understand, well, how could I be happy if this horrible thing is always happening to me? How could I be if I'm stuck here? How is that like there's that big huge disconnect between what they think they want. They think, oh, like maybe they see it in other people and they're like, I could never have that, right? So just knowing that you don't necessarily need to know how you're going to get there. You just need to have a desire to want to change. Does that
Mhm.
make sense? And
Yeah.
then, I mean, if you came to see me, I would just start asking you questions and I would be getting really curious, and we'll just pick one place to start.
Mhm.
Usually, when someone's come to me and they don't totally know exactly what they want, but they know they want to feel happy and free and peaceful and calm in their body, those are like the number one things that people say to me. I just get them to start talking about what they don't like in their life. And I'll just pick one or two of those things and say, well, these are the things that I noticed that you said. Which one feels like a bit heavier?
Mhm.
And I've been doing this for a little bit now. And so usually I can pick the top two that
Yeah.
seem to be weighing on them. And then we'll usually just pick one of those. That's where we'll start. And that's where we start. And
Mhm.
it's just one foot in front of the next. And every session that we do just will build upon the last. In my program, we also have a check-in point where we don't do hypnosis, we do coaching on a call. We do 3 hypno sessions and then we do a coaching call. And that's where we pivot if we need to. Because, like we were talking about earlier, it can domino out into other areas of your life. And so you come in strong wanting this like big, big change. So we do a couple hypno sessions, things have changed, like spread out into your life. Then we check in and say, okay, where are we at now?
Yeah.
Because sometimes what was the big issue has softened, and then there's little things that you've started noticing. And so we work on those.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
And I love that, like, touch base to, because yeah, like things, like it's so cool how things kind of morph and change as you focus
Mhm.
on this. And it's like, actually this thing over here gets a little bit bigger and heavier as this like lowers on the intensity. And then, having that sense of like, okay, like this isn't just like it's not a rigid, like this is what we do next,
Mhm.
what we do next, and we'll go here next. It's like you're focusing here, and then that kind of forms what happens next. And like you have the idea of like this is how this is going to be the most supportive for you, but
Mhm.
we're kind of working as we go, which is like
Yeah.
what people need, not to be told like what to do, but it's like how to get there and how they
Mhm.
can do it themselves. So
Yeah.
I love that. Oh,
And you're in charge of your own life.
yeah,
And I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. No one should be telling you how to live your life. You
yeah,
know, I'll guide you through processes to help you get to the bottom of why you're not living your life to the highest good that you want it to be.
mhm,
And there's something else you had said that triggered something in me to say, oh, about if somebody just wanted to start today and was just like, well, what do I do? What are some steps that I could take? People are really hard on themselves. And you probably see this in your work too. I know I do it myself, and you probably do too, is we have adopted this all or nothing mentality where I have to be 100% on the end of change or
yeah,
else I'm a failure. And
mhm,
if you don't hit your targets of everything that you're trying to change in that one day, you're a failure. So I always love to say to people, put everything in your life on a scale.
mm,
Have your minimum and your maximum. And maybe your minimum or your maximum is, eating the foods that you say you're going to eat, getting the exercise that you say you're going to eat, getting the sleep that you say you're going to eat, and doing this and doing that, whatever it is that you say you're going to do to make your changes, right? Maybe that's your max, but make your minimum. Like, say you want to start meditating every day. Maybe meditation in one person's eyes means sitting down for an hour, burning incense and candles and playing music and using the smudge spray and pulling oracle cards and holding your crystals and, having this whole ceremony for yourself. Maybe that's what meditation means to someone. And maybe they do that every day, and that's awesome,
yeah,
right? But a meditation can also be just sitting with your hands on your heart and taking 5 deep breaths,
mm,
just connecting in with you. And so maybe 5 deep breaths, or maybe even just 1 deep breath is your minimum for
yeah,
that thing, right? Maybe your minimum for your food is just making sure that you get in a really damn good lunch.
yeah,
Maybe that's your minimum.
yeah,
So putting everything on a scale so that you can give yourself some grace when you're making changes, because we're really hard on ourselves and we don't need to be, because there's another day tomorrow.
totally.
And you can always start or take a nap and then start again after you wake up. That I said that because my little niece, who's 4, she thinks every time she wakes up it's morning. And so if she takes a nap, she'll ask my brother, what's for breakfast?
I
And
like
so,
the way she thinks though.
yeah, right. And so
Breakfast
she'll
all
take
day.
a nap and be like, what's for breakfast? And my brother will be like, what? And then he realized that she thinks when she goes to sleep and she wakes up, it's morning, because she has no concept of time or anything, right?
That's so funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Breakfast all day. I like that.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah, so do I. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's really helpful for people to kind of like know how they can even start to shift the way they think about that next step, right? And like having that shifting scale, which is
Hmm.
helpful for me. Even I was like, oh wow, like that's a great way of like,
Take it, use it with your clients.
yeah, like
Yeah.
range versus like here's a set goal. It's like is a range feels softer, right? Whereas
Hmm.
like a set point is very hard because you're like trying to hit a bullseye every time.
Hmm.
And that's very hard. You just want to hit the target sometimes. And sometimes
Exactly.
do.
And maybe you even just hit the dirt below the target. That's okay too.
Exactly.
At
Maybe
least you
just like
got the
showed up.
arrow out of the bow.
Yeah, exactly. You just got the
Yeah.
bow and arrow and you're like, cool, like I showed up with that today. And like
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
that's really helpful and I think could be really helpful for someone to take into,
Mm.
you know, tomorrow, the next moment, right? Like,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Do you have any like grounding practices that you currently help for yourself to say like this is
Mhm.
something that I can do for me that helps me just tap into just like what I want to do each day or how I want to tap into fulfilling me? Like what's a current grounding practice you do?
So the one I do is I will often just close my eyes, take a couple of deep breaths, and I just imagine a color, any color that pops in, just running through the top of my head, down through my body, and down into the earth, as though it's grounding me into the earth. And then I imagine that color coming back up through my body and going up into the universe. So it's almost like giving me that universal energy and that grounded earth energy. And I sit with that for a couple of minutes with some deep breathing and I just visualize it. And that is often enough to just bring me back into my body so that I can tune into whatever it is that I'm going to do with full presence. Um, when it comes to making decisions about what I want, I'll often do muscle sway test. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
No.
Or so the idea is that your body holds the energy of the answer. Your body knows what it wants, but we're so detached, like we're living up here when we should be like fully embodying ourselves to get the answers. And the idea of a muscle test is you stand there's ways you can do it with your fingers like this. If you look it up on YouTube, you can see. I don't get it because my brain just doesn't work that way. I really resonate with the sway test. So it's where you just stand on your feet. You just really center yourself. And then you hold the object or you hold the idea of what it is that you're asking, or, you look at something or you just bring that yes or no question into your answer, into your answer, into your awareness. And you ask, is this what I should do? And if your body sways forward, it'll say that's the yes because it's leaning into it, it's expansive. But if you pull away and you fall backwards, it's the no.
Cool.
That's kind of another way. The other thing I do is I use pendulums a lot. Those
Yeah.
are my favorite things. Yeah, they're a really fun way. They're pretty too because they're made of crystals.
Yeah. I think I see
Yeah.
one right behind you too.
You do? Yeah, right here.
I love that. In the little
Yeah.
plate. That's so cute. I love
Yeah. Yeah, I make them. They're pretty awesome.
yeah, that's so cool. And then
Mhm.
also I'm gonna link your Instagram as well and
Amazing.
website in the notes below so that people can come find you as well because
Yeah.
you do such amazing work and
Thank you.
there's been so many like golden nuggets and like light bulb moments even in our
Mm,
chat today that have just like I'm like I'm taking away from this and I hope everyone here
amazing.
listening is taking something away and like even leave it in the comments, message us on Instagram, like we want to
Absolutely.
hear about those moments that help you tap into, you know, feeling more healed and not feeling like you're broken or that
Mhm.
you're, unfixable and that you can't change.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the case. Is like
Yeah.
if there's that desire to change, it is
Hmm.
possible, and Shawn can help you get there,
Hmm.
make it even easier and safer, and you know, allowing that, allowing the fact that like understanding your subconscious is essentially like running you and how you can help support that as well is like,
Hmm.
huge. It's like tapping into the things that are helping us run day to day to help us just feel totally in tune
Hmm.
with where we
Yeah.
want to be. So like, and,
Yeah.
and having it be small shifts, not being like these like huge expansive things that we have to do. It's like
Yeah.
small steps can truly make a difference in where you're at. So like,
Hmm.
dang, this has been so good. Like
Yeah.
could talk for hours
I
on this.
could talk for hours.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to kind of end us off, what is like a mindset mantra or quote? Like, what's something that you're kind of loving right now in terms of like something that kind of, if you were to like wake up and like think of something, like what's that thing that kind of helps you keep moving forward?
It sounds super cheesy, but it's like you can do it. You can do it. And one of the things that often I hear from people is, what is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? And I'm broken. Those are the two things I hear. And my response is, there's nothing wrong with you and you're not broken. You've just had this sum of events in your life bring you to where you are, and you're now being called to change because you're feeling that resistance. You're feeling that I don't like this sensation in your life. And you don't even need to know how you're going to change. You just need to know that you don't want that. And that in itself is desire. And you can do it. You can do whatever it is that you want.
Yeah, you can do it. Put it on a post-it, put it somewhere in front of you every
Yeah.
day so that you can see that and remind yourself that you can, right? Like,
Hmm.
that's so powerful. Oh,
Hmm.
thanks, Shawn, so much for joining.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Danny. It was a pleasure to be here. And I am so excited for this podcast for it to grow and be amazing, helping people with all these things of being able to just normalize and be real.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's get real. I love it. That's it for this episode of Let's Get Real with Danny. Huge thank you to Shawn for such an honest, powerful conversation and reminding us that healing doesn't have to mean fixing ourselves or that we're broken and that there's something wrong with us. It just means remembering who we've been all along and connecting with that truest self. And if something hit home for you today and you just want to share that with myself or with Shawn, you can find her on Instagram at Cedar and Spirit or visit her website at cedarandspirit.com. I've linked those both for you in the show notes. And if you loved this episode and if there's something that really hit, I'd love for you to follow the show, leave a quick review, and share it with someone that might need to hear this as well. So thanks for hanging out. I'll catch you next week for more real talk and wellness that actually makes sense. Until then, take care and stay well, my friends.